All right, let's talk about tofu. Some people love it. Some people think it's horrible. And others think it's just plain bad for you. Is it really as bad as people make it out to be? Today I'm going to bust some tofu myths. I'll break down the nutrition for you and show you just how easy it is to make it taste amazing. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Chuck, brand new vegan. I help people eat delicious, budget-friendly, plant-based meals, especially those of us over 40. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more recipes and tips. What even is tofu? Well, it's been around for a couple thousand years. It originated in China, just staple in many Asian cultures, and it's a high-protein, whole food, plant-based food, like we talked about in my last video. It's made from soybeans and water. That's pretty much it. They do add some kind of a coagulant. In Japan, they use nagari, which is magnesium chloride. They get that from evaporating seawater. In China, they use gypsum, calcium sulfate. So the process is a lot like how cheese is made, but without killing any baby cows for their rennet, and it's way healthier. There's 3 types of tofu you may see in your store. Silken, which is really, really soft and smooth. It's great for smoothies, sauces, desserts, like this killer tofu chocolate mousse I made a while back. I'll put the recipe down below. This is usually shelf stable, meaning you'll probably see it on the shelf in a little box and not in the cooler section. Soft tofu, perfect for soups like miso soup. You will find this in the cooler section if your store has it. Mine mostly carries extra firm. That's what I have here. This is good for stir fries, scrambles, baking, and air frying in general. This is pretty much all I use. So now let's do some myth busting, because there's a lot of misinformation out there floating around about soy and tofu. Myth number 1. Tofu is highly processed. Tofu is made with just a few simple ingredients, soybeans and water. How processed is that? I mean, it's it. Compare that to hot dogs, which are packed with all kinds of chemicals, preservatives, and who knows what else, right? Myth number 2, tofu messes with your hormones. This is a biggie. This is the most common myth out there. So it's true that soy does contain something called isoflavones. They are a phytoestrogen. That is not the same thing as human estrogen. Studies have shown that soy foods reduce the risk of breast cancer and prostate cancer, and are beneficial for heart health. Reduces, not increases. Myth number 3, tofu doesn't have enough protein. I don't know where they get these. Tofu, one serving of 10 grams of protein, that's plenty, and it's comparable to meat without the cholesterol and the fat. Plus it has all 9 essential amino acids. Myth number 4, tofu tastes bland and has a weird texture. If your tofu tasted bland, whoever made it didn't know what they were doing. Tofu is like a sponge. It'll absorb any flavor you give it. The trick is to know how to season it and how to cook it properly. And that's what I'm going to show you next. And lastly, myth number 5, all soy is genetically modified. Well, it's true that in 2020, 94% of soybeans grown here in the US were GMO soy. They don't use that to make tofu. They use that to make animal feed and soybean oil and other ingredients that you'll probably find in all your ultra-processed foods. So, yeah. The best way, though, to ensure your tofu is GMO-free is simply buy organic. So what makes tofu so good for you? 1, it's heart healthy. It lowers your cholesterol, may reduce the risk of heart disease. 2, it's protein packed, like I said earlier, contains all 9 essential amino acids that we need. Number 3, rich in nutrients. It's loaded with calcium, iron, magnesium. It's good for bone health, number 4. And some tofu is actually fortified with extra calcium just for that. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly, plant-based protein, tofu is one of the best options out there. So how to make tofu taste amazing? Let me show you. I'm going to use a recipe out of my cookbook. We're going to make some tofu bacon so we can have some BLTs. Start by choosing the right tofu for your dish. And we're making bacon. We want extra firm tofu. That's what this is. Remember, your silken is for smoothies. Pretty much for me, everything else is extra firm. Next, we want to press it. This is full of water. And when you open the package, and I'll show you here in a bit, all this water is going to come pouring out. Then you take the slab of tofu and you press it. You can use a tofu press, like this tofu bud. I got a video where I reviewed this thing. I'll put a link down below. It's really handy, but you can just use a couple cutting boards and like an iron skillet to press it. And some paper towels or a kitchen towel.
Once you get the water drained out of it, you finish opening it, and there's your slab of tofu. What I like to do, if I'm not going to use a press, a couple of paper towels doubled down. Take your slab right there. And then get another cutting board right on top. And put something heavy up here. It can be a kettlebell, it can be a frying pan. I'm just looking at things I have around me. Anything to weight it down. And let that press for a good, at least 15 minutes. If instead you want to use the tofu press, like the one I have, an easy way to do it, get a tofu in your hand, put one of these drain filter things, whatever that comes with a tofu bud, right on top, center it, and then take the box and hold the tofu up against the bottom when you flip it. That way it stays perfectly centered. If you try to drop it in from the top, you'll be all over the place. Take the other filter thing on top. We're going to put the slider on, and then the spring is what pushes it down and presses the tofu. Easy.
Then you want to marinate it. That's the whole secret. And I'll show you exactly how to make the marinade. We're going to need some low sodium tamari or soy sauce. Soy sauce is just tamari with wheat. Tamari is the gluten-free version. Maple syrup, nutritional yeast, some onion powder, garlic powder, and a little liquid smoke. If you don't like the liquid smoke, you can use some smoked paprika instead.
So we're going to mix all these together. I got just soy sauce here, or tamari. Low sodium, always, if I can find it. The maple syrup. The liquid smoke. The garlic powder. And onion powder. And the nutritional yeast. We're going to set this aside and cut our bacon, tofu bacon.
So we're going to cut the tofu into bacon-like slabs. I use a cheese slicer for that. We're going to let it marinate in this marinade for at least 30 minutes.
All right, open up our tofu bed. It's been pressing long enough. Drain any remaining water. And I like to dry the slab. So next you gotta decide what kind of shape you want. For me, when I'm making bacon, I like this short right here, this edge. I tried cutting this edge and it's so flimsy they'll break apart. So this shorter width is better. And I use a cheese slicer, surprisingly works really well. It's the same thickness. Of course, it never cuts all the way to the bottom. But you end up with a nice little slab of bacon. And then I just arrange it here in the casserole dish. I got an 8x8 casserole dish right here. So I'm going to put some of that marinade in here on the bottom. I'm going to save some. I got a little pastry brush here too. Make sure it covers this one piece we put in here. Ideally, put the marinade in first, then the tofu. But there we go. Now we'll keep slicing and just add that to our marinade. Now I'm just going to pour the rest of the marinade over the top. Make sure they all get covered. And I would let them go for at least a half an hour. It really soaks up, the tofu really soaks up this bacon maple flavor. Really good. So we'll see you back in half an hour, and we'll fry up some bacon, or air fry some bacon.
And then when we cook it, you got basically 3 options. You can pan fry it, which is kind of hard to do without oil, and we are oil free here. You can bake it, that's my preferred option, or you can air fry it if you have an air fryer, and that works great too. We're going to probably air fry this at 400 degrees, I'm thinking 10-15 minutes, or until it's firm and brown.
Here we go. All right, I got my air fryer basket. I'm just going to take these tofu slabs out up here, lay them on my air fryer grill basket. You can use a spatula too. I'm just using these tongs. I think a spatula might be easier. You can turn them over too if you want, so you can get some of that marinade on the other side. We got a cutting board underneath, so I don't make a mess. Like that. Give them some space too when you air fry or bake them. You can also broil these. I think that's what my cookbook says. Put them under the broiler. Be very careful under the broiler. They won't take that long. So now all we gotta do is wait for the air fryer to heat up, and we're ready to go. So once again, I have this air fryer set at 400 degrees. I'm gonna do 15 minutes, and I'll flip them halfway through, just so you can see. And they look so good.
Then you got a wonderful BLT sandwich using tofu, and it'll taste amazing.
If you love BLTs, you've got to try this. Just like I remember as a kid. Yum, yum.
So now you know the truth about tofu. It's packed with protein, it's super healthy, it's not so bad for you. So what's your favorite way to eat tofu? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, all that jazz. Leave me a comment below. It really helps the channel out. And next week, I think I might do a video on miso, another soy product that's really misunderstood. Miso is amazing. I can't wait to show you what I know. So I'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Chuck from Brand New Vegan. Thanks for watching.